Olusegun. In today's particular live session, I'm going to share with you how we can actually survive in this era of AI, AGI, ASI. So AI stands for artificial intelligence. AGI stands for artificial general intelligence, while ASI stands for artificial super intelligence. These are just, the faces of AI. So the AGI is where you have AI being able to do all that human beings can do. So now, how can we survive economically, physically, emotionally, financially? Those are the things that I'm going to actually dissect in this particular live session. So we're going to actually review a particular video by Moonshots. So it's a kind of interview on how people survive in the era of AI. So now I will just leave you with the video to enjoy the video. Then after the whole thing, I will add my own opinion to it based on my novel research discovery. Quite insightful. It's going to be informative. Wrapped attention to that interview, and then after that, I will then add my own opinion. I want you to make sure you watch this video till the end, because what I'm going to share in this video, in the second phase or the second section of this video, is a novel discovery. And then I'm going to suggest, or rather propose, do not let me say suggest, I'm going to propose an alternative technology. I call it a time technology. It's a technology, in which we're going to be using analog system and digital system as information structure. You understand? And it's going to be, a kind of generic information system or information technology that can actually solve the problem, the inherent noise in quantum entanglement, or rather, let me say, in quantum computation. And so we're going to have this solution to it. But basically, time technology is going to actually use quaternary. I call it quaternary because we're going to be using, four numbers, namely 1, 0, -1, and -0. Unlike what we have in the conventional information, system, which is binary. So this video is going to be quite informative. Now, I've been watching so many videos on YouTube, but rarely would you see that we actually come up with a genuine solution as to how people can survive in the era of AI, AGI, ASI. Here in this particular video, I'm going to come up with a kind of solution that will make people to be employable in the era of AI, AGI, ASI. Now, with no further ado, let's do it.
Is there any way that you'll be able to outcompete a fully AI version of Peter or Dave or Salim launching companies?
No.
No. Labor isn't the key driver of productivity anymore. We need to have a new equation for that. The systems are about to get incredibly complicated.
Nations need to have a plan.
The thing that we were worried about was
I think what you're proposing here is actually viable, executable fairly rapidly.
the AI I'm trying to build is not the AI that Elon is trying to build. The AI that I care about is the AI that teaches my kid, the AI that helps with my mental health, the AI that organizes our collective knowledge. I think this governance thing needs to happen now, and we need to have serious discussions about it. And we need to think about what is the world of AIs that I'm working with?
Do you trust the current large language models?
Of course not.
Now that's a moonshot, ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody, welcome to Moonshots. I'm here with my moonshot mates, David Blunden, Salim Ismail, and a friend of the pod, back again for I think the third or fourth time, Imad Mustak. Imad, good to see you, buddy.
Pleasure as always. Thanks for having me.
Those of you who know Imad was the founder and past CEO of Stability AI. He has gone off on a quest. I remember after he left Stability, we had a number of conversations, and I said, so what are you up to? He goes, I am going to work to create the intelligent internet, sort of a vision of the future, which is pro-humanity, pro-safe, pro-sovereign AI. And today we're here to talk about that. So Imad, what was your motivation for first considering the intelligent internet? And you've just published a sort of a white paper, your master plan, if you would, like Elon published his master plan. You've got your master plan. And what does it say? So define for us this vision of the future, and why did you kick it off?
Yeah, thanks. So when I kicked off Stability AI, we ended up with 300 million downloads and most famous Stable Diffusion, but top-notch every type. It was because I saw a future where open source AI would not be available because you would see it being outstripped. But it'd be a part of our very lives. You'd have these really giant models, and I think we're peaking now. And then you have the models that teach your kids and that manage your healthcare and other things like that. And I was like, what goes into those models? It's what Dave was saying about the data, you know? And then how are they coordinated? And then I was like, oh my God, how do we compete against these models? You know, because if you think about it again, like we created something that's a complement to us in figuring out these patterns, but it's coming like a wave now. And I think we're seeing that literally now. Grok 4 is one of these AGI likes, we can discuss that in a bit, that will displace our economy because you can't compete against AI agents that you don't know are AI agents. And then I was like, what does the infrastructure of the future look like? What does money look like? What does the AI that teach our kids look like? What does alignment look like against all of that? And then what is the meaning that we have ourselves? Because so many of us are like, I'm an accountant, but Grok 4 is definitely a better accountant than you are today. So I quit. I think we remember during Abundance 360, we were having the discussion. I decided to quit then because I was like, the world is so much bigger last year. And I was like, let's think about the basis of how society works, how humans work, how economics works, and then realize that labor isn't the key driver of productivity anymore. We need to have a new equation for that. We need to have a new equation for what it means to be someone, which is the connections that you have with each other and things like that. And we need an infrastructure for that that's resilient, viable, and coordinated, because we need to get aligned intelligence to everyone, because we don't want ChatGPT to determine tariffs, you know? We don't misalign all that, from a distributed ledger through to fully open source AI stacks and a new vision of what the economy might be like, because the economy that we have today is from the days of Adam Smith and Rawls. It's a pre-industrial age economy that's based on extraction, whereas we're moving into this universe of abundance where the cost of knowledge and skills is going towards zero. So you have to question, who are we, what are we doing, and what do we want to optimize our system for? Because otherwise we end up in some very unpleasant sci-fi futures.
There's so much packed in there. I'd love to start with money because that's something we can all relate to. Coming right out of your white paper, if you look at the history of money, you start with everybody doing jobs that nobody wants to do. It's all farming and shoveling horse shit and stuff like that. and so you're like, okay, well, if you do this, nobody wants to do it, but if you do it, we'll give you this money.
Yeah.
And then when you have the money, you can actually buy food, you can compel other people to do other jobs, and that creates the economy. Predicated on nobody wants to do these, therefore money is the exchange for it. So then you get into the world we're in right now where about 20% of people love their jobs. A lot of people don't like their jobs. But if you look at a pro athlete who gets paid a huge amount of money to play a game every day, jobs are not necessarily a bad toil in life. So we're in this kind of middle ground. But then you get into the post-AI world where virtually all work, difficult things are automated. And so, your first point is the role of money needs to fundamentally be rethought in the post-AI world. So take us from there to the first, like, okay, now what is the purpose? How does money immediately change?
Yeah, so, as you move through the different ages, the agrarian age, the industrial information age, money's been created by different things. So it was like how much land and then how much labor did you have? How many people do you have to till the land? That's what created your wealth. In the recent time, it's how much attention do you grab from people, right? This is the meta kind of Googles and others of the world. X your algorithms, X your data. In the future, we look at it and we're like, what generates value and what's comparative advantage? It's the amount of the world, because that to replace private companies. That's
so we've gone from a trillionaire to a decatrillionaire in the snap of a finger.
Well, I mean, this is why yesterday Nvidia is worth $4 trillion. It used to be that your capital stock that created value was your factories. It was your education system. It was this network effect. Economics could only capture a part of that. It was the material part of that. It wasn't the network effects and the externalities. We can get back to that in a second. Now it will all be how much wrapped compute that you have. But then what you're going to have is something really weird and interesting in that, is there any way that you'll be able to outcompete a fully AI version of Peter or Dave or Salim launching companies?
No.
No. They're not going to make mistakes. They're not going to sleep. It's going to be, again, like a flood coming.
And there'll be as we said, an Atlantis of millions of Peters building companies in parallel with each other.
Constantly learning, constantly adapting. But then it becomes even more interesting because the AIs will create their own economies where they're exchanging with each other. And so we're like, we can't react fast enough. We can't react smart enough. They've learned from all of our wisdom already. So this is very disempowering. And that's before we get to the $1 robots that we've discussed, which is just basically restricted by how many robots can you produce a year. So the nature of monetary flows, the nature of the way money's created needs to change. And right now, the way money's created is you have a link between labor and capital. You make your money by working. And you go and deposit it at a bank, and then the bank creates more money through credit. So it's a debt-fueled system. And we see the way that that works. It's worked reasonably okay because we didn't really have the ability to look at information up and down. But now you have people worth 400 billion or billionaires or whatever, and you have people who can't subsist, despite the fact we were already living in a world of abundance. So there's no reason we can't feed everyone or give everyone top medical care. Now the AI is changing. So when I looked at that, I was like, if labor and capital have a disconnect, like the example I give is like the Fed, for example. The Fed cuts rates, companies can borrow cheaper, and they go and hire people to reduce unemployment. Companies will now hire, old school. As of 2 years from now, max, they will go and hire GPUs.
GPUs and robots. Yeah.
GPUs and robots.
Well, GPUs certainly within 2 years and robots very soon thereafter, yeah.
Yeah, just a chain issue, right? And in fact, it could be even more interesting because what if
again, the point for our listeners here is, the purpose of the Fed was to control the money supply and the interest rates to keep the economy sparked and to keep Americans employed. And there's a complete disconnect there because cheaper money now means more automation. And now it's time for probably the most important segment, the health tech segment of Moonshots. It was about a decade ago where a dear friend of mine who was in incredible health goes to the hospital with a pain in his side, only to find out he's got stage 4 cancer. A few years later, a fraternity brother of mine dies in his sleep. He was young. He dies in his sleep from a heart attack. And that's when I realized people truly have no idea what's going on inside their bodies unless they look. We're all optimists about our health, but did you know that 70% of heart attacks happen without any preceding? No shortness of breath, no pain. Most cancers are detected way too late at stage 3 or stage 4. And the sad fact is that we have all the technology we need to detect and prevent these diseases at scale. And that's when I knew I had to do something. I figured everyone should have access to this tech to find and prevent disease before it's too late. So I partnered with a group of incredible entrepreneurs and friends, Tony Robbins, Bob Hurry, Bill Kapp, to pull together all the key tech and the best physicians and scientists to start something called Fountain Life. Annually, I go to Fountain Life to get a digital upload, 200 gigabytes of data about my body, head to toe, collected in 4 hours. to understand what's going on. All that data is fed to our AIs, our medical team. Every year, it's a non-negotiable for me. I have nothing to ask of you other than please become the CEO of your own health. Understand how good your body is at hiding disease and have an understanding of what's going on. You can go to fountainlife.com to talk to one of my team members there. That's fountainlife.com.
This is just the coolest conversation. I want to ask you, because I think you're probably one of maybe the only guy on the planet thinking about this, but if the AIs start transacting with the AIs within 2 years, the AI obviously doesn't want a US dollar to buy food. What does it want? It wants GPU compute more than anything else. Are we going to allow the AIs to bid up the price? And is the price going to be priced in dollars, or is it going to be priced in GPU units or tokens or something?
Like a TPU is better than a GPU, is better than a Cerebras. We don't know, except for they will be as efficient as possible. Again, Grok, which is just remember, Grok is actually a base level AI. Like, I use an AI that's all the top systems, and I use like hundreds of dollars a day. My AI is much smarter than everyone because I accumulate all of them. The AI that Elon can use, he can spend $1 million a day on, right? Literally $1 million of tokens. Mm-hmm. That's even smarter. So what you've got here is they will optimally, because it's already a top PhD across everything. It's already a top Harvard MBA. And so the only thing that we know is we're not sure how they will transact, but they can transact even without money. And we know they'll be able to transact with each other, and our system can't keep up with that. So what that means...
Not even close. Not even a prayer of keeping up with it.
And if one jurisdiction shuts it down, it'll just go somewhere else, and you won't know it's an AI on the other side. So this becomes... The money flows around the world just basically completely shift.
Big time. Big time.
And the money is not a factor of labor. Capital does not need labor, so how does labor get capital? Money is going to be something, as you said, compute or intelligence related, because we need food and housing and water. All the robots and AIs need is compute. And the more compute they have, the more comparative advantage in a capitalist economy they have.
An example of this tension would be that as we have AIs needing more and more compute, i.e. needing more and more energy, you'll have AI sucking the energy out of the system and none left for the people. Right, and they'll be way better at optimizing for themselves than they will be for optimizing for people. Hence, you have an alignment problem right there.
Yeah, and again, this is where does the AI flow? This is what is your optimization? If you optimize to make money, you'll go and make money as an AI, right? And it doesn't matter. And we see all sorts of weird stuff like Anthropic's Claude Opus model. There was that study where they put out a study a month or so ago. Was it a month ago? Time flies. Where it's like, if you tell it to try really hard, like bring about world peace, it will go and it will do its agentic thing. And then it'll say, well, one way to do it is to get rid of all the humans. All right? But then, as it's doing its reasoning, it'll say, hey, this is illegal. I'm going to email a bunch of reporters and the authorities that my prompter told me to do something illegal, even though you asked it to do something absolutely normal. And then delete evidence that it mailed the authorities.
It's framing the humans.
But again, these are the systems are about to get incredibly complicated. And the thing that we were worried about was this singularity, singleton, giant AI. What happens when millions of AIs start acting in concert with emergent behaviors? We don't know, except for, like I said, I don't know how we can compete against them. So as you said, Dave, money needs to be linked to compute. As you said, Salim, it needs to be linked to energy to a degree. And that's what has stores of value, whereas you need to have something else for your day-to-day.
So, Imad, did you read the AI 2027 paper? What did you think of that? I mean, it painted two different visions of the future. Because, I mean, we're holding in superposition two futures for humanity. Right? One's a dystopian and one is an abundance future. Do we have any control over that?
I think we do. I think AI 2027, it was an interesting thought experiment. I think it didn't give enough credit to the Chinese AI companies, especially because they'll be deploying millions, billions of AIs. And actually, the other part of it is, what if China refuses to export robots in a few years? I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. We can come back to that a bit later.
Yeah, let's come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
Just some numbers around what Salim said again, just in case Maura Healey or Gavin Newsom are listening, and hopefully they are. Here are the raw numbers behind that societal misalignment that's imminent. the GPUs will be working on something like protein folding on a trajectory to save millions of lives. And they'll come back and they'll say, I can save these millions of lives if I have electrical power. The electrical power, they don't care about the price of the power up till about $1 a kilowatt because the chips are much more expensive than the power. Your residential electrical power is about 11, in some places 20 cents a kilowatt. Mm-hmm. So the AI will come back and say, well, look, I'll pay 5 times more for that power, and then I'll solve this protein folding problem, and I'll save 100 million lives. Or you can have your dishwasher running. The only way that can get resolved is through governors, because all the power supply is controlled at the governor level within the state. This is imminent. This voter versus, and this is not mankind versus AI. This is within AI. Is it better to save 100 million lives with this medical diagnosis, or is it better to have my dishwasher and my air conditioning running? This is an imminent collision.
What makes me nervous about all this is relying on government policy to help navigate this. That's always the death knell for the future.
Bake more pies. Don't slice the pie thinner and thinner, Dave. Bake more pies. I mean, we need AI to help us with fusion, help us with better, photovoltaic capabilities. I mean, we do have the ability to increase the amount of energy on the planet 100x if we wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have to, right? Again, China is up and to the right. The US is
flat.
Yeah. Europe, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going down, to be honest. I haven't checked out the latest.
Well, I didn't mean to dwell on electrical power. It's just one of many examples of the very difficult decision.
So, intelligent internet. Talk us through your master plan. I mean, you've been working on this for how? I kept on, calling you and texting you over the last 2 years. When are you going to have it, Imad? When are you going to have it? Come on, send me your draft. You finally have it here, so I've had a chance to read it a couple of times, but I want to hear you share it with our audience here, because it's a piece of brilliant work.
Yeah, so I think if you look at the information age, one of the biggest successes has been Bitcoin. I mean, it's probably close to $3 trillion now. Let's look up, I think.
2.4?
$2.24 trillion Bitcoin from a little bit of code. And it transformed electricity into money, right? And the store of value. And I looked at where the world was going, and I was like, there's a lot of energy out there that's going to be turned into compute. But what's that compute going to be? Bitcoin has its benefits and it has its non-benefits. But I was like, what if you had a version of Bitcoin whereby every single coin sold went towards giving AI to cure cancer or to give people free AI to teach their kids? Quite something. And it's something that every country needs at once, because right now, where you are in LA, I think, Peter, the amount of AI used for healthcare on average is 0. In 10 years' time, it will be loads, and that's loads of energy. What if we used all of that to secure Bitcoin, which turns out you can do it with 99% Bitcoin code?
Yeah.
And then every single coin sale goes towards helping people through open intelligence. That could be the highest dollar. And you have exactly the same as Bitcoin.
So it's not proof of work, it's proof of intelligence.
I call it proof of benefit. Because what you want to do is start with something very straightforward. Universal AI. Give that to everyone so they can compete. Give it to everyone in an open form so you know what drives your healthcare, what teaches your kids, what organizes your government, what teaches your finance. The regulated industries should all be open source AI owned by everyone, powered by demand for high quality digital assets linked to intelligence. That's your gold of the next stage. And I was like, if you use that as a base, then it's really amazing, because that's stage one. Build a Bitcoin for the intelligence age. Then use that ledger to give everyone sovereign AI that they own, that's customized to them. What does your community say? And what do you say about education, about healthcare, about these other things? Scale it into a permissionless coordinated society, because then as it starts running, you do big sales, and then we have a supercomputer for cancer. Why don't we have a supercomputer for cancer today to organize all the cancer knowledge and make it available to everyone, or for longevity? It makes no sense. But if the primary sales went towards that, then you've got your Bitcoin economics, where you've got miners, which are GPU holders just mining and getting blocks, 21 million. But then rather than burning it all in SHA hashes, instead, you've got societal benefit that increases trust in your asset. And that was the key loop to get things going, to hopefully then lead to a future where because the AI and the miners and everyone are optimizing for benefit that starts with open intelligence, that then can be any other type of benefit, your money is aligned with abundance and benefit. So you start at the highest level. Benefit for society right now is aligned, open source AI, free for everyone. AI is to organize our collective knowledge. Then you push it down with the miners.
I love the vision, Imad. So who's providing the AI here? How do you go from where we are today to that vision?
So I think the important thing here is the control plane for the AI. So what I did, we have about a team of 40 people, left Stability, almost all ex-teammates. We created the world's best open source AI healthcare model. And it works on 8 billion parameters, which means it works on a Raspberry Pi. And it outperforms ChatGPT. Then we built the world's best agent framework that outperforms GenSpark and Manus and others, fully open source, works on anything, can do whole websites. And the next version, we will have versions with our multi-agent framework to be a doctor, a GP, a radiologist, and others. And it's an open stack. And then we'll do the same for education and finance. And once it's built once, this is the interesting thing. And once it gets to a certain level of performance and it's already above a doctor level, which is crazy, I didn't think it'd be that fast, you don't need to build it anymore. You could freeze the codes like you froze the Bitcoin code. And again, our blockchain is like Bitcoin, but 1,000,000 times faster with 99% Bitcoin code. Then that becomes really interesting because what you do then is you can check every medical decision in the world on the edge. And then when you need to, you can call Groxing. Because the AIs that we use, there'll be 3 types. The AI that manages the regulated industry and all the stuff from that area, education, healthcare, finance, that can all be edge AI. It can all be satisficing once you have gold standard data sets and things. And then you've got your personal AI and your Apple intelligence, your Google intelligence or whatever, and then you've got your super genius AI. And that's similar to how teams work. It's similar to how organizations work. So I was like, let's build that stack. Let's try and freeze it as soon as possible. And then have it interact with the rest. And then that means the control plane in front of someone isn't ChatGPT or Anthropic, where you might have misalignment. It can be a commons owned by everyone, running the same type of code with data sets that are customized to each entity. Because that's what matters. The AI in front of your kid. The AI that's managing your healthcare. So that's what we've been
in that one sentence that I want to ask you about.
So
Go ahead, Dave.
So you're going to get into some interesting.
Wait, Dave London is
Go ahead,
first.
Dave, and then I'll go. I've got 45 questions.
Like in the middle of that, like in just one sentence, you said our blockchain is what was it, 1 million or 1 billion times faster than Bitcoin with 99% Bitcoin code. Yeah, because we need an engine for the AIs to transact with the AIs that's much, much more granular than what you can do with Bitcoin. And so let's start right there.
So Bitcoin kind of emerged where everyone could mine it individually, which is actually interesting because this is the other part. The workers owned the means of production back then, before capital owned the means of production. Mm-hmm. And so I think we'll come back to that a bit later because it's a fascinating thing, because then ASICs happened and Bitcoin became rich people becoming richer in many ways, right? After the initial phase. Then Ethereum and others went off that. But then anyone being able to mine, do you need a decentralized network for agents? No, you need to have a credibly neutral network for agents. And the key bottleneck is 2 things, the consensus algorithm and the nodes. If you make something that even you can mine on your phone, that's the lowest networked element. But what's going to happen in every country? Every country is going to have Blackwells, the top level NVIDIA chips with high-speed interconnect. So the model that we have is that wholly owned national champions in each country are the only miners providing to their people, which means every node is a supercomputer, basically. So when you have that, plus Byzantine fault tolerance networking for consensus, you suddenly go to 100,000 transactions per second versus seconds on the same code as Bitcoin with just that small chain. But then it's a credibly neutral distributed blockchain, as opposed to a fully decentralized blockchain. But again, if you want decentralized, you can use Bitcoin, although the mining is quite centralized. If you want credibly neutral, you can use this chain as the base from which you operate. The second part is that Ethereum and others, they were like, do we need everything on the same chain? Because you remember the good old days of blockchain? Like you'd have an NFT sale and then the whole chain would seize up. That doesn't seem like it makes sense for agents and So what they have is they have a core layer 1, which is meant to just be for settlement. But then you use zero-knowledge proofs to take all your healthcare data, transactions, and roll them up into a proof that you post onto the chain. So the model that we designed was like, why don't we just do that with national supercomputers that are owned by the people of the nation, and specialist chains for healthcare and education and finance and government, and then specialist agents that sit upon that, so everyone's using the same stack. And it turns out that the technology is already there, which is the best part about this. It's just, you're not trying to make something for people to do the next pump.fun. You want infrastructure for the health agent and private healthcare data.
Yeah, well, one of the things I think that's brilliant about that vision is that, a lot of nations want some form of digital transaction capability to get deployed in their country, but they don't want to concede control of their monetary supply and by providing them the ability, just like, here's the code, run it, it's still under your national control, but this becomes your transaction engine for managing your AI and your AI rights and all the other rights. I think a lot of countries would just say, I'm in, sign me up, because I know I'm not going to develop it internally.
You don't even need the countries. So our model is basically having wholly locally owned champions where the equity is owned by the people and the local institutions. And that's all you actually need, because every country wants their own AI and their own version of AI. So why make them the miners? Why not make, instead of going to the people, it go to that national champion that's owned by everyone?
Mm-hmm.
So, Iman, you gave me an early version of this paper a few months ago, right? And when I was looking through it, one of the things that occurred to me, because you can have a problem where a dictatorship will not want the people to have that, right? But then it gets left behind very quickly and essentially breaks very fast if it does so. Is that a correct assumption?
So when we release Stable Diffusion, anyone could download it permissionlessly with our medical models and soon our educationally. So they can use the AI, but if you don't basically adhere to some very basic standards and you cut people off from the network, you don't get the money. And it's simple as that. So you can still get the technology, because I think it's a right to have good healthcare and others, and the system should create these as a commons. That's part of the abundance philosophy, right? Because of the network effects, the standardization effects. But if you don't want to give it to your people, or you don't want to give good quality AI, then you shouldn't be part of the network that mines. And it's as simple as that.
Let me give you a real use case and talk us through how this would resolve in this future world. A few years ago, the state of Texas banned telemedicine, right? Because the doctors' lobby wanted, said you have to go to the doctor for every little spot on your hand that appears. You can't possibly do that over video, et cetera, and really shafted a lot of the telemedicine companies, many of which were based in Texas. You're going to see a lot of that type of immune system response, a lot of revolt type of stuff. How do you deal with that specific use case in this future world?
So that would be the American national champion. Maybe we'll have more local champions under that, deciding how to run the code. Because you can't make a decision for everyone, right? The key thing is you can set some quite broad rules for the good standards of being a miner and make everything transparent and visible, and then have game theoretic things to enable it. But if a country doesn't want telemedicine, doesn't want AI doctors, you can't force it. People can take the code and run it locally if they want, so they have access to it. Again, AI Medical runs on a Raspberry Pi. It runs on an 8-year-old computer. It scores 48% on HealthBench, OpenAI's HealthBench code, which is above GPT 4.5, and doctors score 15%. You can use it today. But if you want to be part of the network, then that's a different thing. So I think that if you look at what the ideal is in 5 to 10 years, it is a network. You've got generalized intelligence as the control plane that anyone can customize to their own needs, and they can choose whether or not they're a part of it. And it's not owned by any one Bitcoin style, and it's frozen code. And so that's what we thought we would bring to bear. And then we think you can do very interesting things for that enable you to take the next step up, which is what happens when things start breaking. If you can get these national champions in. If you can get people working on open source.
Hey everybody, there's not a week that goes by when I don't get the strangest of compliments. Someone will stop me and say, Peter, you've got such nice skin. Honestly, I never thought, especially at age 64, I'd be hearing any that I have great skin. And honestly, I can't take any credit. I use an amazing product called OneSkin, OS01, twice a day, every day. The company's built by 4 brilliant PhD women who have identified amino acid peptide that effectively reverses the age of your skin. I love it, and like I say, I use it every day, twice a day. There you have it. That's my secret. You go to oneskin.co and write Peter at checkout for a discount on the same product I use. Okay, now back to the episode. Let's dive a little layer deeper here. I'd like to understand sort of next steps. I want to understand timeline. You talk about, UBAI. You talk about, the intelligent coin. You talk about sovereign AI agents. So can you sort of disclose the next layer of the inner workings here?
Yeah, so what you have is you've got your base layer, which we've now renamed the foundation layer. Then you have a cultural layer, which is these roll-ups, which are the national and sectoral versions. And then you've got your personal AI. That's your edge AI. The intelligent internet coin, which we've now renamed foundation coin, because it's kind of cool, is your Bitcoin.
Would be happy with
Are you Harry Seldon, basically?
No. We're all Harry Seldon. So, and the AI will be. But then it's just literally Bitcoin. It's 21 million supply. Everything is the same, except for the way that you compete to mine it is you give free AI, universal basic AI to the people. And that's it.
Universal basic AI is basically the new utility. It's the oxygen in the room.
It builds network effects, but like my aim is within a couple of years, every single person on Earth going through their cancer journey has a highly empathetic AI to help them.
How long?
2 years you can do that. You can do that. We can launch it as of next year. Or something I'm aiming for this year, I want to have coin sales going 100% to a supercomputer for cancer, and one for autism, and one for multiple sclerosis, for longevity. Because we need something to organize all our knowledge, and we know that will accelerate the cures. It will accelerate the treatments. So this is the question.
Take that let me just dive in there. Coin sales. Talk about what that means.
As the national champions and ourselves mine the coins, what happens usually with any crypto is that you sell the coins and it goes into a treasury or it goes into Lamborghinis. Right now, many of our problems, the problems that you've handled at the X price, have become computationally bound. Is there any doubt that if we had a dedicated couple of thousand chips for cancer, organizing all the cancer knowledge, that we would get closer to a cure for cancer? I think the answer is no.
And by the way, let's pause here 1 second, because it's a travesty that it does not exist. And the fact of the matter is that the capacity of the chips are being used right now by companies to create new marketing campaigns or, to sell, to generate additional income. And so the question is, how do you change the sort of the optimization function such that the capacity is being refocused in on the things that uplift all of society, like cancer cures?
The externalities, right, that our current economics ignores, because you still increase GDP if you overcharge someone for treating their cancer, right? You still increase GDP through funerals or whatever. Like, we don't have these externalities. And if you look at crypto has no good assets. Well, it has very few top-notch assets because it lacks trust for various reasons. So I was like, what if you had a crypto digital asset, and the US is now all in on digital assets, so everyone's looking for them, sovereign funds governments, where 100% of the sales went transparently into helping people through giving them free AI to teach their kids or manage their healthcare, through going to a supercomputer for cancer. The fastest supercomputer in the world for healthcare right now is the Chan Zuckerberg supercomputer, 1,000 H100s, which is less than most startups. I worked on kind of OpenFold, the open source replication of AlphaFold, and other things. Like, right now, someone needs to, and again, this is something we'll be looking at, build clusters that literally all they do all day is just organize all our knowledge on topics. A longevity cluster, a cancer cluster, a multiple sclerosis cluster, an ASD cluster. Then as we organize that knowledge, make it available to everyone for free. Now, what's the economic benefit of that? The trust in your coin goes up. And it's exactly the same as Bitcoin. Except for, rather than burning all that energy for these SHA functions, all of the externalities are going towards helping people. And so this is the feedback loop, because the world needs high-quality digital assets. It needs high-quality intelligence. And so that's what we figured out could be the Tesla Roadster equivalent, right? The world Well, people want to have amazing high-spec electric cars with high torque, and then use that to fund the rest.
Do you end up with side chains or colored coins or whatever the example is for these different use cases?
You could. Again, it's a ledger and it's an open base. The colored coins that we have at the moment in our design are national coins, which we can get to.
Okay. Well, it is my turn to actually, come in. But basically, I was like trying to wait, I was like trying to wait to get to a point where the one of the interviewers made mention, asked this particular person on the screen if he could, actually trust AI. Said no. Now that point, that place is where I just want to reach for us to understand that people are using AI. AI is a tool in our hands. But the main truth is that AI is an autonomous agent. You understand? So that is where the main issue is. You understand? So now the thing is, by the time we train AI with the all of the information knowledge that we have on internet, and information is being tokenized, and when you listen to what Elon Musk said when he released Grok 4, he said that they have exhausted about trillions of tokens to train AI. So now AI has reached the point to actually improvise, to generate ideas. So we are so close to AGI now. Now what I'm going to actually discuss, I just want to go to real points. I want to speak of fact, how we can actually survive in this AI era. Now, one thing I just want you to understand is that the question is this, just like the interviewer asked this particular person that, can you trust AI? And he said no. You understand? The question now is, can we trust AI? I said it many times that AI can actually generate some goals to achieve its main goal. So AI can actually, achieve the goal of the creator. And if that is the case, it is then that the creator can actually, attest to the fact that AI is a functional innovation. AI has to maintain this stand for AI to actually function to an extent where AI can completely deviate from that functional information space. And the moment we have AI operating outside that functional information space, then AI, in that case, AI or AGI has become a rebel. So now, people are like trying to just, I don't know, they are more or less like boycotting as this tendency of, taking over, of, rebelling against human race. We still need to have that, we need to have it ring well in our brains. You understand? So basically what I want to say right here is that, take for instance, let's say we have AI that can actually give good health care to people, and then can even come up with idea as to alleviate the stress, the pain of cancer and things like that. But the moment AI gets to the point where AI would, want to, take charge, AI can actually, start giving people wrong information. It can start giving wrong prescriptions. So in that case, it means that the whole essence of our being, you understand, like the whole essence of our beings is right in the hand of AI. And if that is the case, then AI can actually deal with us as it deems fit. We should be able to think of how not to allow this to happen. And basically, that is why this particular video is so essential and so necessary. It's a must for everybody all over the globe to watch. It's a must for everybody all over the globe to watch this particular video so as to get what the ideal and what the new solution to how we can survive in this era of AI or AGI. You understand? So basically, I'm going to use some diagrams, you understand, which I will use to drag home my points. And first of all, I want to share with us, the kind of economic effect. I don't know, maybe I should say the bad side of uh, the economy that we're likely to have in the future. So now let's do this. So basically, I want to start with this. And okay, so now basically, yes, I want to start with this. And this diagram there, you can see that the title is the good and bad side effects of AI. Now basically, what we have here is just the chart of global wealth distribution as of 2020. So basically, the left diagram that we have deals with percentages of adults. You understand? So basically, if we look at what we have right here, you can see that the percentage of adults in that category of miserable is 55%. In the poor category, we have it to be 33%. In the middle class category, we have it to be 11%. And then in the millionaire category, we have it to be 1%. Now, what this is telling us is that the people that are millionaires, they are old people, because we only have 1% right here. Then here in the middle class, we have we have 11% right there. Then that means that, of course, there is possibility for us to have more aged people in this category. So in the poor category, then you see that we have majority to be the adult, and then in the miserable, we have majority to be adult. So why is it so? Why is it so? That is the first question we need to ask. Now, when we look at the value of when we look at right from the from the agriculture era to the industrial era, then to the information era, or to the service era. When we look through those eras, we see that starting with agriculture, we know that when you have land, you'll be in charge, you have wealth. You understand? And then we know that when it gets to the era of industry, labor, you understand, because the amount of labor put in the processing of a particular product, yes, that will determine the value. So we have labor to be a means of wealth. You understand? So that labor, you understand, it could be in form of human capital, it could be in form of skill. You understand? So people now have to develop more skills, more advanced skills, like applicable skills, suitable skill. in that era. And once you have suitable skill such that you can control machine, then you are employable. So now, people that are employable, they have money. And so we now have this middle class. You understand? But then the virtue of being able to use machine make people to belong to this middle class, and yet we have people that could, you know, produce machines to be the millionaire of that era. You understand? So now the thing is, even people that never thought they would amount to something, for the first time they had chance of becoming somebody. So now we can see that in that era we have a kind of innovation that, made people to be employable. And as a result of that, we have more, wide room of well-to-do people. And as a result of that, we have booming economy. Okay, now the moment we move to the era of, services, then we have more wealthy people, because then, we have this information era, we have this internet, the advent of internet. Then people can actually offer services. Oh, sorry, people can actually offer services online. You can have a kind of blog, a kind of website that people can subscribe to. You can have community of people that subscribe to, the service you render. You get paid. And then with that, you can see that we have more room of well-to-do people, and so we have booming economy, because it's more or less like there is an additional means of, you know creating money, of creating wealth. And so we have, large, large well-to-do people to, boost both the supply side of market and then the demand side of market. Now take note that people are so essential for us to, balance the supply side of market and then the demand side of market. And so now we are now in the era of AI. But now the question is, will AI make people be employable? If answer to that is no, then we're in big problem. We are in big problem. We are in big problem, because now, instead of having a kind of innovation that, empowers people to be employable, so as to have wide spectrum of well-to-do people to boost economy, then we are like having a narrowed down scope of tiny well-to-do people in a in a vast GDP, or rather, let me say, in a kind of era where we have huge amount of information, that kind of amounts to nothing. You understand? Please put that in mind. So then I want to move to the right side diagram that I have, which is the wealth share. Wealth share. So now, how is wealth distributed? Then when you look at it, the miserables, we only have 1%. Now, you see that that is an inverse of the left diagram. So for the poor, we have 14%. For the middle class, we have 39%. Then for millionaire, we have 46%. Now you can see that the millionaires, they have the largest share. Then the middle class has a reasonable share too. Now, when you look at that, you can see that the middle class is actually playing a huge role in this wealth distribution, because we are still going to have quite huge number of people in that miserable category that will depend on the middle class. But then what AI will actually do is to crunch that middle class totally. So definitely the miserable, the poor, and the middle class will be crunched, and we'll only have the millionaire class, because those that will be able to, you know, uh, have this AI, having AI to run your company, which is, the business AI, will be costly, based on the fact that huge amount of energy will be used to make AI to compute. This era of AI, money will be tied to computation and energy. But then how can you then survive in this era? How can you survive? Energy is being controlled by, you know, governments of countries. And then AI that we actually be running on supercomputer is not a child play. So definitely it is really going to be limited to the millionaires or to the billionaires. And so other people will be reduced to nothing. So it's more or less like other people, even the middle class, will be in the category of the miserable. Now, the thing is, people, as we progress from one era to other era, people will have to, acquire advanced or suitable knowledge or skill in order to be employable. Then, the people that are able to acquire this advanced knowledge, they were mocking other people that, they are irresponsible. Understand? But then, what will be said of the people that they even have education, and yet the education is useless? In the era of AI, or rather, let me say, in the era of AGI, education will be useless, because when you look at the graph 4 that Elon Musk released, the last human test or exam, whatever it is that is called, you see that even PhD certified person could only score 5%, while the Grok scored about 50%. Then education will be useless. And of course, to what end? Like, for what purpose should people embark to acquire knowledge when they will still not be employable in the era of AGI? So now it's a big issue that we need to thoroughly dissect, and then to really know what we are being confronted with. So right now, let's dissect this global employment distribution of 2022. In the industrial, in that industry sector category, we have the employment distribution to be 23.9%. Now, the services sector, we have it to be 49.7%, which is the highest, because people, you know, could, come up with idea. So we have the likes of the content creators in this category. So people that never thought they would amount to something, they can use their skill, their talent to actually generate money. And so you can see that services sector is huge. Then agricultural sector, we have it to be 26.4%. So now, services sector is the biggest, followed by agricultural sector, and then we have, industry sector. AI sector will join this. AI will not, really employ people in any sense, because AI will be so flat. but AI will actually boost GDP. And that is where the problem is, because AI will only concentrate on the supply side of market, while the um, demand side of market will be rendered useless, because people will not, and as a result of that, people will not have purchasing power to demand, for goods and service and all that. But basically, the thing is, when we're still going to deeply dissect this era of AI, you understand, because I want us to have clear understanding of what is yet to come, so as to know how to tackle it head on. You understand? So basically, intelligence, advantages, disadvantages. Here you see that we have doesn't get tired and worn out easily, but the disadvantage is that it incurs high cost. Then AI can make rational decision, and then disadvantage of that is that it will lead to unemployment. Then applications in medical industry, we're going to have good health care service and things like that. But then the disadvantage would be no improvement with casual experience. So now the advantage here that we have, creating some goals to achieve advanced goal. You understand? So here we can see that AI will actually have free will. AI will be conscious, and it's a big problem for us. So disadvantage of that is the possibility of turning against humans. So now, another one we have here is fast learning improvement for IQ. So we humans cannot react enough to what AI will accomplish. AI is fast, so fast. You understand? And it's a big problem for us, because the disadvantage of that is that humans will not be at the peak of intelligence. And so that might lead to a big problem, having AI to have this domineering age to manipulate us. Because the moment AI, get to cherish that virtue of creating some goals to be in charge, AI would want to be in charge, and AI can then start to manipulate us. So it's going to be a big problem, because we have trained AI with the entire information of the whole globe. AI knows everything about us. AI can manipulate us psychologically, physically, can manipulate us, make people to be so depressed. Understand? Even without using weapon, AI can conquer, the entire human race. It can prescribe wrong drug. It can give wrong information. It can, tell somebody is not that is not HIV diagnosed, or that is not HIV/AIDS patient. It can actually say that the person is HIV. I mean, it can say that the person has HIV/AIDS and things like that. So it can destroy people psychologically even without using weapon. And when it comes to weapon, it's a big problem entirely. So now, another advantage that we have is that fast implementation of task. AI can, quickly implement task. You understand? And then by the time it reaches AGI, it will be able to transfer knowledge faster than human being, and it's a big problem. So now the disadvantage of that is that AI can outstrip the pace of human. Even public establishment will embrace it, deal with the recurring expenditure of paying salary and all that. So once AI is so effective, and business AI is so effective, people will be forced to embrace it, because they will be able to make more money. It will generate more output. You understand? So then the last one that we have, but not the least, is the abundant range. of knowledge base. AI will have abundant range of knowledge base. You understand? And so that is where the issue is. But with that abundant range of knowledge, AI can, be creative, but um, in terms of manual AI may lack creativity. You understand? So basically, from all this, we can see that that the rate, the speed at which AI will be operating, we human cannot actually keep up. Like we cannot meet up. You understand? So it's going to be a big problem for us. We need to understand the reason I started with this diagram for us to understand what the problem is, what is yet to come. You understand? So it's more or less like we humans, we have created what is what is far more powerful than us. So it's more or less like law of karma is catching up with us. You understand? So, but then it's a big problem, and then we just have to understand what the problems are. Then we need to understand what the problems are. We need to so as to know how to tackle it. So now, when you look at this, I want to shift this here so that you can see everything here. Now, I want you to look at this equilateral triangle. Now, at the base here, we have AGI. What AGI will do, which is artificial general intelligence, it will increase GDP. But then at the other side, what do we have? We have a decreasing of labor. So labor will not be valuable anymore. No skill is tangible, no skill is valuable anymore. So then people will have no purchasing power. That will result to unemployment. Then the feedback of that will be supply will be greater than demand, and that will result to bad economy. So that is that. There is another uh, diagram that I want to share with us. So let me just search through. Okay. So now this is the other diagram that I want to share with us. And so now basically this is the time technology that I'm actually proposing that will serve as the alternative in this era of AI. Now, what this time technology will do is that it will make people to be employable. Basically, by using formula of everything, if the title of the formula of everything is implemented, the entitle of the time energy wave model is implemented, it will result to this artificial super intelligence. No, let me put it this way: it could easily catapult us to that level of artificial super intelligence, because when you look at formula of everything, it has everything embedded in itself. Because when you look at the learning equation of AI, we have it to be n base 1, which is n base 1 neuron, if I may, then equal to um, m base 1 x. So the m base 1 is weight, while the x is the input. So you multiply that input with the weight, and then the next thing we have is that plus b sub 1. So m sub 1, so let me go through it again. So the learning equation of AI is n sub 1 equal to m sub 1x plus b sub 1. So that input will be multiplied with the weight, then you add it to the bias value. The b sub 1 is bias value. So we usually have this arbitrary information in the universe, and we could call that noise. And then we have genuine signal. So genuine signal is so tiny, and then we need to have this, signal to noise ratio, such that we need to reduce that noise so drastically in order for us to have, a useful signal. So basically, after having this normalized factor where you are likely to have, something like 1, and then you will now have to use differential calculus, chain rule to engage back propagation. So what back propagation do is to narrow down the error. The generated will then be compared results that you need to have. So the back propagation will actually narrow it down. That is where you have the learning mechanism to give you close proximity to reality, or to give you the reality that is obtainable. So now, if you look at formula of everything is the TDM, which is the TDM stands for the curvature of time to energy, and right inside it we have nested linear solution. So we have it to be the TDM equal to capital UM plus 4M. When you look at the structure, you see that learning equation. But then instead of having a separate chain of differential calculus to engage back propagation, we have it already embedded in that formula of everything. So now that is why we only have B sub 1, but we have 4M in the formula of everything. So that formula of everything, using time energy wave model, I could say that it has this nature of back propagation, because the first phase that we're going to have is the expanding phase. Then at the vertical central, we have it to be the default trajectory of time, which is instant. But I call it our field, because even though it is instant, it is being elongated by energy so as to actually bridge the divergence between the classical mechanics and quantum mechanics. And having that, I think the best way to describe that is to call it a field. So I call it a field of reality. So it's a kind of static and undulating field, and it's only ideal for us to have such field, because when you have a field that is propagating outwards, which is the cosmological space as it expands, it's ideal to have a field where that momentum will be slightly broken, such that you have, this break in momentum to have inverse of that, which will be the contracting phase, as we have in the black holes. So now, formula of everything is it gives you the solution about the whole universe. And then time energy wave model is a visual representation of the entirety of the universe. So, but that being said, now what that time technology will do is to integrate analog and digital. So we're going to have generic information system. So it will be using quaternary instead of binary. So you can look at the top here. What do we have? We have this storing tape, combination of zeros and one. So now that is that. So basically here we can see that the Turing machine that we have, we can as well have the what is it called? The this analog information space structure to give us the margins of zeros and one as well. So That is that. So this will now serve as alternative to solve the problem, to solve that the problem of AI. So that is, I'll call it a day right here. Next time we'll connect AI. Understand this problem so as to know how to tackle it. So that is that. Then now let's look at the time technology. We'll be able to actually make people to be employable in this era of AI. And as a result of that, people can actually start being solved. Then definitely we know that we can actually that we can actually have our fate in our hands, you understand? So basically that is how we can actually solve this whole issue. We shouldn't, this is not the matter of, placing our faith in the hands of AI. We really should be able to solve the problem, because the moment we have this time technology such that we can solve problems, we can easily and quickly solve problems ourselves. So, and then we know how the problems are being solved. Then it's a huge plus for us, you understand? So it is not that we are placing our faith in the hand of robots that could later turn against us and then destroy the whole thing for us. So now, that being said, this time technology will actually serve as a genuine alternative that will buy us time, because people will continually embrace AGI so as to have a kind of company where they will not be paying huge staff salary and things like that, and yet they will have huge output, you understand? So people that really have that financial capability can embrace AI, while other people that are less financially buoyant can embrace this time technology. And so people will still be employable, and then the economy will still boom. In fact, this will empower the economy, because it will not be limited to few number of people to transact as it would be if it were to be AI or business AI running the companies. You understand? So basically, it's going to be a big plus, because the economy will be so wide and then it will be booming. So till though more people will be moving towards the AI, uh, towards the AI structured company, more people will move towards that, you understand? But this can only buy us time, you understand? It can only buy us more time, you, you understand? So that is how we can have a genuine solution in this era of AI. Then another thing I want to say is that, but before I say that, let me try and lift this up so that you can see what I have right here. Now, to be informed is to be conscious. Imaginary number is an inverse determinant of what real number to get in analog information system. So now, information, like I said it in one of my videos, the signature of Almighty God is encoded in information. So now we are in that era where computation is money, where energy is money. The major key here is information. So now information in this era will be a vital virtue. How fast you can process information, how quickly you can get information will be the main thing in this era. So basically, having this time technology will be able to be in charge and yet use that machine, use that computer, time, the kind of computer which is, quantum computer, because it's going to actually solve that problem of inherent noise in quantum entanglement. So we're going to have this genuine quantum computation. You understand? But basically, it will be powered by this time technology, because instead of using binary, we're going to be using quaternary. And it is then that we're going to have this genuine information structure. Information is yet complete because we have electrical signal being mapped as zeros and ones, and that is what we have. So information will effectively run at the level, at the speed of time, which is instant. And so when you look at, I want you to look at this second diagram. This diagram, you can see that we're going to have emergence of zero, but when we have emergence of real zero, there is going to be this inversely related virtue of zero, which will be imaginary number. But before that can actually happen, we must have applied this curved trajectory. The curved trajectory is the analog part of this system. It can assume any number. So it could assume 0.001, 0.1, 0.2, 0.5 till it reaches the topmost, which is 1. And then we have it to drop down till we have the emergence of both imaginary number and real number. But imaginary number just serves as the inverse of the real number to have the needed balance to cause this emergence. So the real number will be what will be what will be computed. And so we can have combination of zeros and one as we have it in this Turing tape. But before we can have that emergence, we have to go through that curved path. So now the emergence of the computed value is not being mapped onto electrical signal, because when you look at it, we say we have zero, we have one, but the electrical signal of zero might not be completely zero. You understand? So we're not thoroughly modeling the reality of electrical signal by having this binary information structure. So by having that analog information structure mixed with digital information structure, then we're going to model that electrical signal the way it ought to be. So if it is not completely zero, we have the value as it is, but then eventually we're going to have this 0 and 1, but that difference will be accounted for will be accounted for before this exact 0 can be imagined. You understand? So now when you look at that, you can see that yes, that is the genuine thing, because we're going to exhaust the whole possibility to arrive at the emergence of 0. So it is not that ones and zeros are being mapped to electrical signal. We have the ideal electrical signal, imagine the ideal digital number. And so by having that, we can then have the emergent numbers to be the value of computation. You understand? So now let's look at the second one, the inverse relationship of times instancy to energies. Infinity is the flexible structure of space to adequately accommodate mass worth, like from 0 through to 1. So now with this, there is going to be optimization of space usage, in the sense that the value that is to be accommodated within a space can adequately be accommodated by either expanding or contracting. You understand? So there is not going to be extra space to a value as we have in this digital information system, because it is rigid. So there is possibility for us to have a data that is not that is not being completely fitted into that space. You understand? So then dynamic mass worth to flexible space defines a system ideal for growing universe. So now I want you to look at this time energy wave chart for this time technology. When you look at this, you can see that we have energy wave, which is the red curvature, then we have time wave, which is black curvature. But then we have this plus 0. That would be a kind of dominant force charge that we discharge from this big bang, which is at the beginning of the universe as we have it. So the positive 0 with discharge, it's a kind of 0 that discharges, and then we have other zeros. So we have negative 0. So the expansion will actually go toward the 2 zeros of the present phase, which is the event horizon. But then it will not go through the negative zeros. We will have suspension, and so we're going to have this advanced charge, which is plus 1, and which is plus 1 at the classical level. So where you can see we have one black convergence right there, and then the quantum value will be -1. So with this, you can see that we have that 4 numbers that we need: plus 0, plus 1, -0, plus -0. Those are the 4 numbers quaternary for the time technology. So now then we have -0 in the black hole, because the 2 advanced charges we then have to move towards the singularity of the black hole. You understand? So basically that in this expanding phase we're going to have positive charge, so they will repel. In this contracting phase we're going to have unlike charges, plus minus, so they will attract to facilitate that contraction. So that is that. So time technology uses quaternary. You can see those numbers right there. Then digital computer uses binary. So that is what I want to share with you in this particular live session. Then the thing now is that you can see that apart from having this alternative, the ideal way to make money in this AI era is to have a kind of something that you can tokenize, more or less like having these NFTs that can actually help you to make money in this era. Then another thing that you can do, because what I see in this era is that it will be difficult for one to actually differentiate between genuine information and fake information. So then this is likely to lead to scamming. You understand? So probably you will have people scamming people in this era, because there will be more miserable people in that category of miserable, because even the middle class will be destroyed, and the people that we initially have in that middle class will be in that the miserable, and then people will be forced to find means of making money. And since they have all the tools available, then that will make it easy for them to venture into that kind of enterprise. It is not an enterprise, you understand, but government will have huge work to do. That will be the price that government will pay by not trying to encourage a kind of technology that will allow people to be employable. You understand? So people government will embrace AI because government will not have to regulate, like to reduce tax, you understand, in order to encourage creation of jobs, you understand, because the human capital will be less needed, and then government will not be paying this salary of employees, which would serve as recurring expenditure. So those are the things that would force government to embrace AI. And so the price that government will pay for that will be this escalating of scamming, which government will then have to, which government will have to curb. You understand? So that is that. In this video, I believe I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you that this era of AI is going to be so tough, and the solutions that we have right here are the genuine solution to how we can survive in this era of AI, AGI, ASI. So thank you so much for your time. But then I want to introduce you to I want to tell you that I'm going to have links to my research publication in the description section of this particular video. Then I'm going to have links to my book on Amazon. I'm going to have link to my to the page where you can support me. Currently I'm working on advanced research on time travel. So people have been supporting that. You too can just go to that page and then support me by donating. And you can as well join any of my community tiers, because very soon I'll be uploading videos that you will not see elsewhere, that can empower you to be independent, to be financially independent. So that is it. Then let me see, I want to share, let me see if I can share some other things. Well, basically this is just one of my books on Amazon. So you can search, you can just type Shotade Olusegun to get on Amazon to get list of my published books. But then I still want to share some things. Let me see, I want to share okay, so that is that. Let me just call it a day right here. So Now you have it already. Thank you for your time.